This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, make sure you send us your PR Podcast plug. We mentioned this at the top of, almost every other show. As PR people, this is my running joke at least. As PR people, we're great at promoting our clients and we're horrible at promoting ourselves. And that's really bad for a new business owner like me. I got to learn how to promote myself just a little bit better. And this podcast is part of that. And my social media is part of that too. But we want to promote you. We want to love on you. So send us your PR podcast plug. Let us know something cool you're doing. It's your cool TikTok channel. It's your blog. It's your newsletter. Something you want to let people know that you've done. Maybe you won an award, right? Maybe you are a sick guitar player and you're going to send us a YouTube video or something. Send us a PR podcast plug and we will mention you at the top of an upcoming episode. But you got to reach out. So it's either online, Jody at jodyfisherpr.com, or hit me up on any of the socials at Jody Fisher or at the PR Podcast. Send us that PR Podcast plug and let us give you some PR podcast praise. Now on with our show today, we have a terrific guest. Stacey Vaselaney's experience spans both the client and the agency side of public relations, publicity, and social media community management, culminating in more than 30 years of communications expertise. She's a successful and effective practitioner in bringing a high level of creativity and originality to all of her accounts. She draws on her artistic flair and results-oriented thinking to develop unique and innovative programs, projects, and publicity opportunities for her clients. Stacey, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thanks, Jody. It's great to be here.
We're glad to have you. I'm really interested in how you meld the artistic with the results-oriented, because sometimes those can fight. Tell me about your philosophy about how you do that.
I think it's really coming up with some unique ideas, especially, pitching can be hard and, it can be monotonous sometimes, but I think coming up with the right elements or the right vehicles to communicate ideas can be essential too. The one thing I think of when I think of, the creative stuff we did, not that I don't do it now, but I could give you kind of an example that works, is that years ago, I worked on the Duck brand duct tape account when, I don't know if you know duct tape, but they were really fun.
I have a lot of it in my house. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I was there I was with an agency and we had a huge team between the client and the agency team. But our task at the time was to take an ordinary gray tape and make it appeal to a younger audience. And to help
Are you the person who made it pink? You're the person who made it pink?
No, well, that was what we were promoting. Yes.
I love the pink. Well, you know who loves the pink duct tape is my daughter.
I bet.
She's 11 years old. Every color of duct tape you could possibly imagine in this house. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she might want to, if she's not old enough for prom yet, but there's a scholarship contest for if you dress up in your prom and duct tape outfits that you make. But so we did a lot of different things with that team. From everything with coming up from fashion, duct tape fashion, using the different, and we would have designers, young people at Parsons School. We had to do a fashion show and to make dresses out of duct tape and kind of showcase it that way. And we also did we did a back to school thing. They were introducing some new products in tandem with their colored tape. So they were targeting, a consumer audience traditionally away from the men, the guys who have it in their toolboxes and everything in their trucks. And we came up with an idea to send all these little mini products that fit in children's hands, to send it in a mini locker, like your locker from high school. And so, the time, yeah, we ordered these little lockers, and the pitch note was in the shape of one of those triangular notes you would use to, send to your friends, and you'd kind of like kick it like a football, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
It was really fun, and it got a lot of interest, and it garnered, some great coverage. But that's just one idea of going with something that's a little different, that's a little more, out there, but that also has the appeal that so you have a message. And sometimes some of the products that we promote or the services we promote aren't really that exciting, but we need to try to make them fun and in a way that we can appeal to the media who and then can, show it to their audiences as well.
That is such a great example of what great and creative PR people do. I think a lot of times people think that everything we do all day long is write press releases and send them to reporters. And what you just outlined is what we actually do, which is we take something that might even be mundane, like you described, duct tape, right? It's in every craftsman's, toolkit. It's somewhere in your house to, cover a hole or, to put two things together, do something, right? It's very utilitarian. How do you take that and tap into a new audience, tell a new story about it, and get people excited about it? I think that is such a great project to talk about. So let's back up a little bit and talk about you. Tell me about your business and how you work with your clients.
So I am a sole proprietor, just me, an LLC, and I have been in practice since 2010. So I work with a variety of clients. My background is more consumer products, but I also have a lot of B2B clients. I'm based in Cleveland, Ohio, so some of my clients are in Chicago. I have a few consumer product brands that are ones that is out of Illinois. Um, but I also do local media, relations here for Cleveland clients as well. So kind of have both experience. I also started out on the agency side and then had moved over briefly to the client side. So I have both client and agency experience, which I think is really key to, when you're in an agency, understanding, how things work internally from the client perspective. It's not always as fast paced. And sometimes we get really frustrated with our clients because they just don't move that fast. And the thing I love, the shout out to PR people, is that we are so nimble. And I don't want to mention, I work with some agencies and they're great and they're great partners. But I notice like some of the lead times for writing is, something they'll give it a week and we have to have that stuff done, in 3 hours. So I'm always amazed by what we can turn around as PR practitioners.
I think that's also a great thing to point out too, is having the dual experience of being on, more than one side of a fence, right? Whether it's being in-house or at agency, whether it's, my background, which is being a reporter and then being a PR person, and I've been in-house and agency as well, to have those multiple perspectives and to understand what the person on that quote unquote other side of the fence is dealing with, going through, managing.
Yep.
I think it really helps from a project management standpoint and from an expectation standpoint. How about you?
I agree with that. And I think, I've always felt my mantra is that the client, they're, I work for the client and I'm there to make them look good. So I also work for the media too, but as far as client, contact people, sometimes it's not always the director of marketing or the director of communications. It might be someone who's a manager, a marketing manager. So they might not have the same experience or level or access to their superiors or, who's running the CEO or at the C level. So I think, preparing them for that. And some of my clients contacts who are a bit, not as seasoned. I think, I'm there to help them communicate, to help them kind of show them what the C-suite wants and what they're looking for and, how best to communicate. I think that's part of our role. You definitely want to, make them look good, make the client shine.
No doubt about that. Let's take that philosophy and go back to your story about duct tape, which I'm fascinated by.
You're
I
fascinating.
love,
So I
I
have to
love
say,
this
it
as a
wasn't
case.
just me. For clarification, I worked with a great team. We had a client team, the Duck Brand team, and then we had an agency that I worked for. So I was at the agency then, and we did just all sorts of fun stuff. Like I said, at the time, there was gray duct tape, and I think initially it came out we came out with red, blue, white, just very, we didn't have pink yet, Jody, but that was coming. And then after I had left the agency, they came out with like, the tiger stripes and the leopard and all that fun stuff too, which is great.
But okay, but take us back. Where does that conversation start? Does the client have the idea first? Do you make the suggestion? And then once you know you're gonna go down this road with the multicolored duct tape, how do you start to formulate the plan, the publicity plan, the outreach plan, the whatever else has to get packed into that? How do you begin to formulate, and how do you communicate that with the client? How are you working with them on that?
It actually was driven, and I was new to the agency then when that, so it had already been established. So I wasn't as privy, but I know that, it wasn't a PR decision or a recommendation for them to come out with colored tape. That was something that was a business plan and model for them, just to acquire a younger, fresher, new audience so that they can do that and appeal to that and have longevity with the brand. But, I have to say, in all my years, and I've been in this business for 34 years, the teams that we had there, we collaborated like one unit, and it was just amazing. So I think from there, they came to us and said, we're coming out with colored duct tape and we want to promote it. So how should we do it? And, we had these planning sessions. We were really, both the agency I work with and the client, they were great at having big brainstorming meetings and big planning meetings. And, the brainstorming was great, and we collectively would come up with things, and then individually, maybe the agency or they actually came up with a stuck at prom contest, which at the time, again, they had different colored duct tapes, and we wanted to appeal to even high school students, which we were surprised at the reaction and how popular it became. But it was that if you dress up in your at your prom in duct tape clothing that you make, you have a chance to be entered in the scholarship. And that scholarship contest is still going. And it ends up that the couple who won the first contest had dressed in medieval Henry VIII style gear. So they looked the part, very medieval, and it was really cool. And they were very bright. I think they had like orange tape. And this just is kind of funny because it ends up, it was around the time when, unfortunately, 9/11 happened. And during the time after, the Homeland Security guy in charge of that was Tom Ridge. And he had mentioned about duct tape, keeping it in your house as, if there has been an emergency. And somehow my team, wasn't me, came up with the idea to pitch that to him, to pitch duct tape and, to the New York Times, or it was the Wall Street Journal, sorry, with that article, and kind of go a little further. And it turned out it resulted in an above the fold photo, color photo, first one ever in the New York Times, above the fold, first color photo on the first page. And it was about the prom contest. So.
Wow. I'm so glad you brought that story up, because it points out how a really smart campaign that you're talking about can also take on a little bit of a life of its own. And people will latch on to your idea that you've created to promote something, and then take it in a completely new direction that you couldn't predict, right? Is that like the holy grail of PR campaigns?
It was, and I think that media hit was pretty cool because we were told that it was the first ever above the fold, first ever color photo, and it's just funny. I'll send you the picture of the kids, but it was really great visually, and it's kind of funny, yeah. But that we were all thrilled about that, of course. So.
And I mean, that's got to surprise you too, right? Because it sort of comes out of left field. It wasn't on the brainstorming sheet, is what I mean, right?
But I think that's, like I said, it wasn't me who reacted that way, but it shows it shows creative thinking, not necessarily creative, from an artistry standpoint, but a creative, thinking out of the box. So here's something, duct tape's in the news, and it's a serious topic, of course, because it was, in case there's an event that happens where everyone's prepared. But, we were able to pitch the right editors and, kind of make that a fun element of it, or an ancillary, kind of pitch, which ended up working out and they ran with it. So I think that's something too. I always tell my clients, part of my job too is to look at what's happening in the world. I'm, a news junkie, but that also helps me see opportunities for clients. I have an air purifier client, and when the wildfires have been hitting in different regions, we go after the media there and offer to help, and, get our experts there to talk about air quality, indoor air quality, even when there's outdoor smoke, and, those types of things. You have to be nimble and quick and adapt, because those are where the stories are too. We can come up with pitches as best we can, but if they're in tandem or somehow related to what's happening in the news, I think those are even better ways to to reach out to the media. And
I couldn't agree more. Now, here's the trick, right? How nimble do you have to be in the case of, let's say, a Canadian wildfire thing, which, granted, it was breaking news, but it's not like it happened in a day, right? We kind of saw it coming. How did you start the conversation with that client, with that air purifier client, to start to ramp up that idea and say, hey, we have an opportunity here. Here's what we want to do. Take me through maybe the 5-minute sketch of how that conversation goes and how that program goes.
yeah, well, traditionally with that client, and this is the one I lost recently, only because they had acquired the firm that I work with for 14 years was bought at. Well, they sold to this larger firm. But how it happens is, we come up with these, they're air purifiers, so they're air purifying systems. So your typical air purifier, you use it if you have allergies, asthma. A lot of people put them in the nursery for kids. They make good gifts. They're often on lists for newlyweds and things like that. So traditionally, we always did a seasonal campaign that was around events, gift giving events like Mother's Day, and brides and things like that, but also especially cold and flu season, spring cleaning, or spring allergies and fall allergies. That's when, that was in the news, and the media were interested, and that's when they were talking about it. And then, the wildfires just started happening. And I think it was simultaneous. We both kind of saw that there's opportunities to, to kind of leverage what we have, and how, we can provide resources to the media. And it wasn't so much a national pitch. What it became, and I think this is important, because when we work with local news, everyone wants to know how that bigger news affects them. So the wildfires in Canada were also affecting and impacting air quality, even in Cleveland. We had a few days last year where it was it was really hazy and hard to breathe. I have asthma, so it was really hard. So we went to those local media and talked to them about, well, look at this, Cleveland's air quality is at this level, and we have resources. We can talk to you about why you need an air purifier, what to look for in an air purifier, what size room you have, and what air purifier to consider, and all of those things. And we got some nice pickups all over. I mean, it impacted not just Cleveland, and I think New York, where you are, as well as all over. So,
yeah, Long Island's air looked like the surface of Mars. Not that I've ever been to Mars, but I've seen pictures. It was just wild to see. And I'll say I don't have any breathing issues like you described. You said you have asthma. I don't experience any of that, and I found it hard to breathe on those days, and it hung out for a few days.
It did.
Is that a moment? I routinely say that PR is never designed to draw a straight line to your cash register, but there are moments where it can, and I feel like that's one of those moments. I mean, people might see a story about an air purifier and be so motivated to go out and purchase one. Did you experience that in that situation?
Oh yeah, I mean, there is a direct correlation with sales online, and they had they have an Amazon store as well as their own website. So that you definitely see that. But you're right, it's a zigzaggy line. And but if that's a word, So that makes it challenging in terms of, proving your worth within. That's something we're always trying to do, right? In PR, like why we should do PR when the ROI isn't, something, it's kind of contingent upon a lot of variables. So, um, so in
Tons
that,
of variables, but also the downside to not having, and again, I say this to a lot of people too. Um, I feel like PR is writing your history, and it's what you want people to know about you 5 years from now.
yeah.
And if 5 years from now you haven't had an active public relations campaign running, you're not going to have 5 years of coverage to look back on. How do you
Right.
describe things to your clients in a similar way?
Well, yeah, I mean, with consumer clients, it makes sense. And I have, most of the brands that I've worked with. Well, actually, when I first started working with the company, they were a fledgling company that were making air purifiers. So they built that brand into what it is now, and then it was acquired by another company. But yeah, I mean, I have that conversation with B2B clients as well. PR is just such a different animal than marketing, and a lot of times it gets, lumped in there. And it's so different that I'm fortunate because I have so many years and experience in the industry, and I have a nice business practice here that I can work with more people who are more well versed in public relations and what it entails. Because going back to your planning, 5 years ago versus now, you need media relations takes a time. It's not going to be the perfect. I always try to tell my clients, look, I can tell them this today, but they're not going to, they're going to save it. For instance, I have a Libman as one of my clients, and they make cleaning products. So right now they have some new cleaning tools, mops and brooms and sponges and things like that. But right now I'm pitching for spring cleaning in April, May to those media. So there's like that lag time always with PR. And, we've all heard the stories where you pitch someone like a year and a half ago and you never heard from them. And then finally they get the go ahead to write the story, a journalist. So I think patience is a virtue in PR. And I think in a world where everybody wants immediate gratification, basically all across all spans of life, it can be very trying for us, in terms of, educating our clients that this is worth it and this is going to pay off in the long run.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about AI and sort of how that's affecting how we're doing our jobs. What's your take on AI, and how is it affecting what you do on the day to day?
I just used it to draft an article for a client newsletter. Um, so that was I've actually been kicking and screaming against using it. Um, I've been in the business a long time. I'm kind of a dinosaur in this business. So, things like tech don't come natural to me. But what I don't like, I think there's an authenticity that doesn't come across in AI. And I've seen a lot of our colleagues, you and I follow each other on Twitter, and we have a lot of PR colleagues on there, and they'll show you like, hey, this is can you tell which one was generated by AI and which one, was written by a human? And not every time, but you could definitely tell there's a lot of nuances when a human writes it. And I think writing things like like label tags or something like that, or ingredients, I mean, that seems logical. But when it comes to real heartfelt writing and information and, tech in a lot of ways, I think it's good to use as a base, but I wouldn't rely on it. I wouldn't rely on it yet completely. Maybe there will be a time when we won't be needed, Jody. So, but I think we need to just step ahead cautiously with it. I think it's great. I think it's going to save a lot of time. It's also going to put some freelancers out of work because clients, jump at that, and anything that impacts the bottom line that they think they can save, they think maybe they can do it better. It's kind of goes
Yeah.
back to when early in, PR or early when I was doing my own business, you'd have to talk to somebody and they'd say, oh, literally my sister's, my nephew is going to do the website, or
Right.
it's like one of those, and you're just
My
like, oh,
cousin, right? My friend from high school, right? I get it.
yeah, my mother's brothers, sisters, cousins, So it kind of has that element to it, I think, a little bit. I think it needs to be managed carefully. I think we would be remiss if we're just going to let it go all willy nilly and not kind of, I think I think there's going to be a niche for PR people and it's going to just evolve and show itself. I think the more we work with it, of where that sweet spot is using it.
Well, this has been a great conversation, Stacey. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We are going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor's studio, ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions.
Oh,
These just meant to elicit a simple answer. Are you saying, oh my God, you've heard this before, right? Maybe, but we're going to have some fun with this, right?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, she's ready. So with your indulgence, Stacey, let's begin rapid fire question number 1. What is your favorite news source?
Well, I have a favorite news source, but it's not really for hard news, and it's the Daily Mail, which everybody should be shaking their head, right? But it's my guilty pleasure. I actually glean from a lot of news sources. I try, CNN, Fox. I do all the stations. I try to get, like a Reuters or AP. I'll do local here too sometimes to get the local angle, but I'm pretty well rounded in it. I think that we can't just have one source of information from the media. So
Gotta be. Rapid fire question number 2. What's your favorite social media platform?
I like Instagram, only because, and I don't use it as much professionally as I do personally. I travel a lot and I take a lot of, I'm in Europe. I have really good friends in France. And so I go there a lot, and I love I'm an amateur photographer. So I take a lot of photos and I love posting them and sharing them online. I like Twitter. Twitter's gone through some changes. It's what it has done is enabled me to really get with this PR community and the freelance community, which I like. I mean, it's quality over quantity. I don't have a ton of followers, but the right followers, and I'm following the right people where I'm getting really good information about just anything from billing to setting rates to, pricing strategies and all that kind of great stuff that we can share. And I love that ease of that from a professional standpoint of Twitter. LinkedIn has it too, but it's not as, I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't know that it has the camaraderie that Twitter PR people have. I don't know if you've noticed that.
No, I totally agree with you. And a healthy dose of snark in there and good humor doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, exactly. Some good memes.
You got it. Rapid fire question number 3, Stacey. Coffee or alcohol?
Ooh, alcohol, but not in the morning.
Got to get through the day first.
I'm actually one of those Diet Coke drinkers in the morning. I'm one of them. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I've actually cut my coffee intake down because it's my New Year's resolution.
Good for you.
Rapid fire question number 4 for you. Your favorite on the run food?
Probably fruit, like a banana or something.
Oh, you health nut, you.
I'm not a health nut, but it's all about convenience and what I won't spill on myself.
Bananas come with their own container, right? So
I'm just being honest.
There you go. All right, and rapid fire question number 5 to round it out. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
I would like to write, and I know it's trite that everyone wants to write a novel. I'm not sure what type of writing I want to do, but personal, writing. I feel like I have some stories to tell. I'm a cancer survivor. I have some great, insight from that, I think, on life and, I don't know, just different things. It's hard when you write all day to sit down at a computer and write for yourself. So it's really hard to do that. So I think, I don't know, I'm close. I'm going to be retired in a little more than 10 years or 12 years, right? If I want to, but I think I think writing will still be a part of my life, both personally and probably professionally.
Yeah, I don't think it ever leaves you. And it sounds like you got some stories left in there. So
I think
we want to hear them.
I don't know if anyone wants to hear them, but my mom would, but
I'm sure someone will want to hear them, and we'll definitely look for it. Well, Stacey, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Sure. My Twitter handle is at Stacey Vaselaney, and I have a website. It's www.slvpr.com. And I am on LinkedIn, Stacey Vaselaney, and I'm on Instagram at SL Vaselaney, my last name.
Fantastic. We'll have everything in the show notes. Thanks again, Stacey, for being on the show. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.